which brings us to another coach that has gotten one more year in the Big East, and that's Patrick Ewing. And look, both of you guys are from the DC area. Both of you guys grew up like around that Georgetown program, and in the area where that Georgetown program was at their pinnacle. They are 6-23 this season. They've lost 19 straight games. They are 0-18 in the Big East. If they lose to Xavier this weekend, they are going to be the first team in Big East history to go 0-19 for the entire season. Today, athletic director Lee Reed came out and basically said, we're going to give Patrick Ewing at least one more season. I'm assuming there's probably going to be some kind of change to his staff that is required for that to happen. But we talked about this a little bit before, RC. How difficult is that position that the Georgetown administration is in at this point?
Again, going back to what I just said, from judging from that, that's the way I took it. I took that statement as saying, and I said this to some friends, one or two things are going to happen. They're going to come into Pat's office and say, you got to make staff changes, a lot of changes in the office. And the other would be, if Pat doesn't agree, then they may say, look, we got to make a change. I think that's the biggest thing that's going to happen with them. And if not, and Pat may decide, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a part of what's going on. How I'm hurting the university is not going the way I want it. And he may resign. But there has to be major changes, because you can't go winless in conference play. I mean, and expect, and that's any level or any job. You just can't go winless in year 5 and expect a return. Let's just call it what it is. And that is his program. He's earned it to the right. I think this is more of them giving him that right that we've talked about with so many other programs. We're old enough to know that he's built Georgetown. He's where it all started. And this is a courtesy deal for him. And this is something that he has to really decide how much changes does he want to make, because he may not be willing to make the changes. He may have to bring someone else and say, hey, let me fall back and just be the head coach and let you run it. Like, I don't know what his decisions are, but he has to be open and willing to say what I'm doing and working.
Yeah. Pro, let me ask you this. How can the administration make that decision? Like, this is Patrick Ewing. RC's right. Like, he is the guy. When you think about Georgetown University, you think about Big John, and then you think about Patrick Ewing. Like, they are synonymous with that program. They developed that program. Allen Iverson is never a Hoya if Patrick Ewing isn't a Hoya, right? So I don't think that you can. How can you? I don't think you can fire him. I think you just at some point you have to have a conversation and basically say, is this going the right way? Like, what do you do in that situation? If you were Lee Reed, how would you handle that?
Yeah, I think what he's doing right now. I mean, like we talked about it, Randolph touched on it, to where, like, I grew up, man, 1985, Georgetown, Villanova, man. I'm listening to it. It's pouring rain, power's out. I got a handheld radio listening to Villanova, Georgetown, in the 85 national championship game, Ewing in the
real
t-shirt.
Real quick, not to cut you off. You know what I was doing during that game? I was being born during that game. Not kidding. I was born during that game. April Fool's Day, 1985. Yeah, I was born during that game. My dad was in the doghouse for weeks because he kept sneaking out of the delivery room to go watch the game on the TV.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. Man, there's just so much history with Georgetown and really the old Big East. And so I think you just have to sit down with Patrick and say, what's best for our university? What can I do to help you? If you really determine to get this figured out, what do we all collectively need to do to really make steps? And it's going to be baby steps, but with the transfer portal, and I don't know their roster well enough, you can make some gradual improvements and some pretty good improvements, but in a quick period of time. I mean, you see it all the time now in college basketball. 1 year you're here, 1 year you're there. But, man, that's Pat Ewing. Man, that's Georgetown basketball, man. So much history, so much tradition. I mean, I go on and on, man. You that Kembe, Reggie Williams, Horace Broadnax. I mean, these guys, Michael Jackson. I mean, I grew up, I can tell you the whole starting five, it's a tough situation for an athletic director administration, because there's no one else more that probably wants that university to be up and thriving than Big Pat, and because there's so many people invested in that university, And that university has been so powerful and important and impactful to so many, of those college basketball players, those student athletes that went through that program. And so it's a tough decision. And so it's not easy by any stretch.